Hello and welcome back to Ray's Coffee and Cards. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator located in Morristown, Tennessee. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you are a repeat visitor, welcome. Thank you for giving me your time. I appreciate that very much. And if you like this video, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. So in the last video, I was saying that I had a couple of things on the way, Sentimental Swirls being one of them. And I did get it a couple of days ago, and I've been able to play with it just a little bit. And I gotta tell you, it may not look like just a whole lot. This is extremely versatile. There are gonna be so many things that you can do with this stamp set. There is not any dies that coordinate with this. However, there is a punch that coordinates with it. In the last video, I think we did Flowering Friendship, and I showed you the punch that went with it. It was called Flowers and Leaves, and so yes, it coordinates with the flowers in this as well. But for today's card, we're not even going to use that punch. We will be using a punch. It won't be that one. Okay, so in some of the things that I have done, it's just been blowing my mind as to how much you can do with this set. And so I decided we would revisit that mini marvelous DSP that you can earn for free in the current celebration catalog with a $50 order. And this stuff is just beautiful. And I know all of us are getting a little bit tired of the mundane gray winter weather, and we're looking forward to spring and all the spring colors. And so today I thought we would use a little bit of Coastal Cabana. Not sure that I'm going to be using the Bermuda Bay. I got the ink pad out, but I ended up going with a different color to go with the Coastal Cabana. Okay. So your largest, I do have my card base prep, by the way, and it's just your typical card base with the inside layers already pre-done. So I have cut the DSP to be 4 by 5 1/4. My Coastal Cabana layer is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. Okay, and just typical card base scored at 5 1/2. So what I started out doing was taking the large swirl and inking that up and stamping that. Well, get out of there. You can decide if you want to put this to the side, if you want to put it toward the top, if you want to put it toward the bottom. But let me point out to you, after I stamp this, let me look at this and make sure I'm inked up pretty well. I gotta show you what this looks like once it is actually stamped. And I'm kind of centering it, but yet I'm kind of angling up toward that upper left corner. We're just gonna press that down. I do have a little bit of a foam mat up underneath here. You might be able to see part of the gray silicone mat that I have under my paper, just to help it not slide around. Isn't that beautiful? Guys, that thing stamps like a dream. It truly does. Sorry about the camera shake. Let me clean that real quick. I'm going to stamp and scrub. Now, there are some things. Well, I'm going to need some more stamping mist. Give me just a second here. I don't ever like for my stamps to sit dirty. I'm almost afraid that they'll permanently stain or somehow they'll degrade. That's never happened, but that's still kind of one of my fears. Okay, so you've got all of these delicious swirls. Well, you've actually got little swirl stamps, and in playing with it, I noticed you can actually, now I don't have them mounted, I'm not going to use them on today's card, but yes, They line right up. If you wanted to add some extra swirl, there are two of them, one going one way and one going the other. So yes, you could actually stamp that to where it looks like it's just part of the flourish, the vine, however you want to think of it. I tend to think of it as a vine, but however you see it is fine. All the little leaves, some of these I do have pre-mounted, so they're not sitting here in my stamp set. But if you'll look real close, you can see they all have that really delicate curve in them, and they blend in with that background flourish flawlessly. So one of the things that I did, let me move that one out of the way. I'm going to take one of the leaf stamps. There are two of these, but I only need one for today's card. And I went and put that one, without getting my head in the camera, tilting that one up. Hold that for just a second. Didn't quite get all of that, but that's okay. Not a problem. And then there is a fill stamp for it if you want to use that. Now, because Coastal Cabana and even Bermuda Bay is kind of a blue-green color, not every green that we have in our palette is going to want to go with this as far as filling in with the leaves. And I really didn't want to use Bermuda Bay or Coastal Cabana for filling in the leaves. I really did want a green, so I started looking for a green that had a little bit of a blue tone to it, where it would just kind of come into the design, and I found Just Jade. It's not just a green, it does have a hint of a blue, and I found that that filled in the leaf stamp just fine. I'm going to have to tilt this where I can kind of line this up and fill this in. I've used on my Coastal Cabana and my Bermuda Bay hot and heavy here lately, doing ink blending and all kinds of things. So there we go. So let me hold this up where you can kind of see. You can tell it's different, but it complements and doesn't detract at all from the overall design. So let me close this up for just a second. And I really shouldn't have put this away just yet, because there was one more leaf I wanted to add to it. And I can take the same stamp, turn it the other way, and just going to try to get that put in right about there. Hopefully, if I'm holding my mouth right, it will line up pretty well. There we go. Looks like it's coming right out of that swirl as though it was meant to be there. Now I can clean this off. One more time, I'll clean that one. Okay. It has been an adventure today. It truly has. Once again, life is funny, unexpected things coming up. And I find the more that happens, the better I am able to kind of deal with it. A couple of days ago, my husband came in. I always let him get the mail when he gets off work. You know, no big deal. Oh, and I just stamped that in Coastal Cabana. That's okay. Where's my Just Jade? Bring that back here. I want those kind of match, and because Just Jade is darker, I'm betting I can go right back over that. See if I can line this up. Thank goodness photopolymer is see-through, or I wouldn't be able to do this. There's no way I could line up a cling mount red rubber stamp and do this. No way. All right. Got that one. We salvaged that. I hate to get out my simple chamois because it can make such a racket. But let me just take it out of my take it out of my bag and just use that real quick to clean my stamps on, so that I'm not having to reach around the camera to get my stamping scrub. All right, let me lay that very carefully over to the side. Now, I want to add a few of the larger flowers. And so here is one of them. When I was originally playing around with this, I put some small flowers in there too. This one, these right here, the really small ones, I put those in there. This time I elected to just kind of leave that out. All right, and if you'll notice, in part of the swirl, it's a little bit thicker line, and so if you want to use that to kind of line up with, you will have an easier time of it than if you're using the really skinny part of the vine flourish. All right, got it. So I'm going to put one there, and I'm going to come up right in between these, even though that line is kind of thin right there. I'm trying to see if I'm lined up. Again, if this is not totally perfect, the whole design lends itself well. It's very forgiving if you don't get it just the way you want it on there. And let's put one more right down here. See if I can kind of get that. Didn't really mean to put it just perpendicular from the leaf, but there you go. Not a problem there either. All right, I think I am done adding the leaves and things. I am. In my original, when I was playing with this earlier, I did take some leaves and bring them out over here, but then when I added my sentiment, it kind of covered that up, and so I'm just not even gonna bother doing that right now. Let me get my stamp cleaned. All right, nice. That's some ink on the back side of that block. Let me get that off too. So I took the majority of my blocks to my kitchen sink today and gave them a much needed bath. I find that probably about 2 weeks is all I can use them before they start looking really ratty. All right, so here I have the fill stamp, and to get back to what I was saying, and yes, here I am going to use the Bermuda Bay. I thought that was a nice contrast with the Coastal Cabana, which, you know, in my mind, they are, they're the same ink. It's just one is a lot darker than the other. And I found that that was true for the Soft Succulent and the Evening Evergreen, because back around Christmas when I was using Evening Evergreen and I was doing some stamping off on a card, for a card, I noticed that it totally mimicked Soft Succulent. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is go get that out and stamp it off 2 or 3 times and you'll see what I'm talking about. But it makes for great coordination when you have the light and the dark. And I kind of wish we had maybe a little bit more of that in our inks, and maybe one day we will. But, all right, one more to fill in. And I guess I'm holding my mouth pretty right. That's not coming out too bad. But like I said, those flourishes that are in the stamp set, I mean, you could fill in this whole piece of cardstock just by adding on to it, and you could really get ornate. The other thing I had thought about, and I didn't have a chance to get to do it today, was to stamp this in Versamark and maybe do gold or even a black embossing powder. That would all be just really pretty. A million and one things you could do with this, absolutely. And you know, if you did heat emboss it, once that was done, you could still heat emboss your flowers and leaves in if you wanted to do it. Now, granted, that would be a little bit labor intensive, and you may not care to want to do all that work, but yes, you could do it. Okay, now at this point, what I elected to do was add the bird. And depending on where you've stamped your image, you know, the bird would sit just fine up here. If there wasn't anything added here, the little bird could come down here. I decided I was just going to put him right there. So I'm going to get him inked up and get him put on there. Oh, and what I was saying earlier about, I'm pulling this down just a little bit toward me, but I think I'm still in camera. Kind of getting his little feet, even his little feet are kind of curved. I don't know if you can see that, but even his little feet are kind of curved so that you can pretty well get him lined up with his little feet. I'm going to press that for just a second. So when he came in with the mail, I think it was Thursday, he was just snickering. I mean, he was laughing. It was like, what? And he handed me a postcard. When my eyes focused, I didn't find it very funny. I have been summoned for jury duty March 1st. Yeehaw. Yay. For those of you who have ever had to go through that, it's just not something that any of us are begging to do. I guarantee it. Okay, true to form, there is a fill stamp for the bird. And I am going to use Bermuda Bay for that. Really just jade. I only use that on the leaves. I didn't use it on the flowers, and I didn't use it on the bird. And I think I used Coastal Cabana, and I know I did. You would think it probably wouldn't really fill that in, and honestly, if you're using this kind of DSP that has a background, you really don't have to fill it in, but I elected to, and I'm going to on this one. We've got that lined up. All right. If I can see what I'm doing here, kind of at an angle. There we go. Let's give that a press for a minute. Yeah, I was really afraid the first time I tried this. I thought, man, there's no way that Coastal Cabana ink is going to show on that, but it does. It does very well. It will lighten just a little bit, but not enough to detract from the overall design. Okay, one more time. Let's clean this stamp. Okay, so, yeah, onward and upward, right? I mean, it is their duty. It's just a fact of life that that's something that we are going to need to do. Now, while I was designing, I thought how great to kind of add a little something to this. It's already really pretty. At this point, you have a choice. You can stamp a greeting. It can actually be a very long greeting because you certainly have the room if you've moved up your stamping. That's not what I ended up doing, but you absolutely do have that ability. But what I have done is pulled out, yes, I know, Champagne Mist. It is retired. But I gotta tell you, and I thought about getting out the Frost White and putting that together to kind of see how that would look, but I didn't have any made up, and so just on spur of the moment, I grabbed my Champagne Mist. This is filled a little over halfway with rubbing alcohol, and then I just put, if I was to measure it, about half a teaspoon, I guess, of the shimmer mist champagne colored paint in there, and if it doesn't look quite dark enough to you, you can certainly add a little bit more. You know, just try to add just a little bits at a time, shaking it up each time, and by all means take a little piece of scrap cardstock or a piece of typing paper, something like that, and try it and kind of see if you like the effects you're getting, and if not, keep adding some until you do. Now, I have got a box, not anything fancy, And I'm just going to lay this down in the box so that when I spritz it, I'm not getting it everywhere. You could hold it over your trash can, hold it over a tile floor, and it doesn't take a whole lot. And of course, this is on regular cardstock, so immediately it wants to start curling up, but it will dry. And so you can see here where some of the drops were a little bit on the heavy side, but that's going to dry and it's going to be clear. And that being 90% alcohol, it will dry even faster. And as you can tell, it's not disturbing my ink or anything. So what I had elected to do was just kind of gently hold that just a little bit so it doesn't curl too much. And when all was said and done and it dried, there was very little curl to it. It was very easy to glue down on the card front. So there we go. And I've got something right there. I don't know if I can get that off or not. But that's okay. Yeah, whatever that is, I'm getting that off. It could have been a tiny, tiny little piece of cardboard that was in that box. I probably should have checked it out a little bit better. But as you can see, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Everything is fading out. And I want to try to bring it up. If I angle, you know, this is so hard to see. Just like Wink Stella and the shimmer in the Air Shimmer cardstock. But if I can hold this just right. Oh, I'm not seeing it through my camera lens at all. But I promise you, in real life, it has got that delicate, glittery effect. It's just so pretty, and it really makes the whole overall design really pop. Okay, so I told you that we aren't using the flowers and leaves punch that does coordinate with this. And again, there's yet another option. Actually die cut those little leaves and flowers and put them on there for added dimension. Not a problem there. But I decided I would use the double oval punch. It is in the annual catalog. It has not retired. These are really, really shiny. I don't know if you call it chrome or what when you get these. And so I just punched out of basic gray, not basic gray. Yeah, basic gray. Anyway, it's been a while. I've slept since then. And glued them over the top so that on camera it wouldn't be, you know, glaring and in your face. So what I did is I took a scrap of Bermuda Bay and just simply punched out the larger scalloped oval. And then I have a scrap piece here of Coastal Cabana. And I'm going to get back out my Just Jade ink. And I'm going to get my Hello stamp that I have already mounted. This is their smallest rectangle block, and it's the G block, and it fits on there just perfect. So I am simply going to ink that up. I have really got to re-ink my Coastal Cabana. It's kind of getting thin in places. Okay. Just make real sure I've got that inked up. And I'm going to put it down a little close to the edge, but not too close. I don't even know if I have this straight. However, the beauty of using a punch is you can straighten it up in the punch. And if you did stamp it crooked, nobody will ever know that you stamped it crooked. All right. Same thing for circle dies, oval dies, all that. Yes. Awesome. All right. Let me clean this one more time. Well, already my poor little chamois is trying to dry out. There we go. It's a little wet around the edges. Okay, now we are going to move that out of the way. Punch this out of the smaller punch right down here. Try to get it centered all the way around. There we go. So I was watching a video the other day, and I can't remember who was doing it, but they were talking about these punches and how people actually get their hands and everything else caught in here. So when you're using these wonderful punches that are such a time saver, do be careful when you close it that you don't have your skin next to it. You know, they pointed that out, and I thought, well, okay, that is a good tip to pass on, especially to someone who's new and may not have ever used a punch or may not have used one very much. So when you get ready to close it, just close it down and lock it, and you're good. You're good. I always store mine closed up. I don't leave mine open. All right, I'm gonna get my little box back out again and put my little hello in there. And I'm going to spritz the hello. Well, if I can hit it. There we go. I don't want that run around on it. I want that to run down all the way around it. I'm not real sure what's going on because normally these little spritzers spritz a lot better than that. So I don't know if I inadvertently did something today when I had to refill it, because I didn't have but maybe a couple of drops left in the whole thing. So I'm just going to take some paper towel and just kind of get that excess off of there. There we go. There we go. So while that is drying, maybe you can see that shimmer before it dries. Can you pick up on that at all? I hope so. Guys, one of these days, maybe I will have better camera equipment and all that good stuff. So, all right. 90% alcohol. It does evaporate really, really fast. Now, I saturated that pretty good. So while we're letting that dry, I'm going to set that over to the side. And I'm going to bring my card base back in because I wanted to show you another trick. You know, we're used to getting our Versamark, the Watermark clear sticky ink out anytime we're going to do some heat embossing. But they call it a Watermark pad for a reason, okay? So what I did to decorate part of the inside of my card is I just inked it up really well with a Versamark. I think I was making the camera shake. And I just simply plopped it down in the middle of the inside cardstock, pressed it all around really good. The beauty of the Versamark ink is once it dries, it's not sticky at all, it's not tacky at all, and it just leaves a very, very delicate design back behind. That's all it will leave. And I can tell that I did have just a trace of the black ink on there, but that's okay. It's not enough to detract, and your recipient will never know that you didn't mean for it to look like that. So we are still good. I think a lot of times, you know, we put our projections over onto the recipient, and we're the only ones who know what the card was meant to look like, right? And they're just tickled pink to get a handmade card in the mail. So I'm going to leave this open and let that dry. You can tell it's still a little bit wet, a little shiny still. And we're going to bring this back in. And I'm going to check and see. That is still just a little damp. I really hit that pretty hard with the shimmer spray. And guys, these misters, these spritzers, they really do spritz. So I'm gonna have to go and soak this and clean that out, because I think I have some buildup in there. It honestly normally does spray much finer than that, and did before I refilled it. So I'm gonna have to go and figure out just what all is going on with it. This one is still, it's still damp. I don't know. Well, I'm just going to set it down here by the vent and let that vent kind of help accelerate the drying time. And in the meantime, we can certainly go ahead and get this put on our card front. You can see where the ink kind of has gone through. I used VersaFine instead of our normal Memento Tuxedo Black ink. It's a really good ink. I like Memento. But I have found there are some stamps that if they have really, really fine lines, the VersaFine pigment ink really is good for your finer details. I have taken the VersaFine and the Memento side by side on the same stamp and stamped the same image, and have seen such a difference in how it comes out. So, you know, that's just kind of something to keep in mind. Stampin' Up! Can't carry everything, right? And I'm really glad that we have the Memento. And I will tell you, if you're going to be using Stampin' Blends or anything like this, you cannot use the VersaFine. It will bleed. It is a pigment ink. There are hybrid inks and things out there that you can use with alcohol markers like our Stampin' Blends. But pigment inks, no. At least I know you can't with the VersaFine. I actually made that mistake one day. I'd stamped something with the VersaFine, let it dry, because it's not water-based, so it doesn't dry right away, okay? And it can and will smear on you if you touch it before it's dry. But I went to color that image with Stampin' Blends, and oh my heavens, the black ink smeared so bad, and it's like, oh, yeah, I forgot, I can't do that. So yes, our Memento ink is superior in more cases than not for stamping. Okay, let me see if that is dry now. It is. It's good and dry, and it's not even bent, warped, curled, mutilated, folded, spindled. Just gonna put a little bit of glue right there. Bring my other piece up here, kind of sort of lay it where I want it. I thought about having a cup of coffee before I started this video. I'm kind of thinking I probably should have. All right, let's see if I've kind of got that centered. Yes. Now at this point, obviously, if you want to pop it up, you certainly could. A lot of times I just select to go ahead and glue it flat in case I end up mailing it. And I don't have anybody in mind for this card yet, but the demand is always there, right? And we never know if we can deliver this in person or if we will end up mailing it. And so if you're not sure, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm spending so much in postage and things that I am really kind of shying away from doing more than what I really need to do. So, and I didn't add jewels on the first one I played with, but I am going to on this one. Now, there's not really any true white. It's all kind of tinted to some degree in here. However, I'm thinking that the white pearls might really add a little something to this card. And I have 3 flowers, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the small pearls and take these 3 flowers and just give it that little something. Just enough to kind of get your attention and realize there's a little bit more going on to this card. Here we go. When I had thought about using the pearls, I thought, well, you know, I could always take my Coastal Cabana Stampin' Blends, and I could color it to match. But then again, I think with the shimmer mist and everything that's going on, and I'm going to try one more time. I know you can see it here. I kind of overdid it on that sentiment. I mean, really. Wasn't really aware that it was going to do that. I didn't even think to test it after I refilled it. And I sure wish I could get that shimmer on the background to show up for you, and it's just not going to. But anyway, guys, if you didn't order the set, I hope you will consider ordering this set, because again, there is so much you can do with it. I hope you consider ordering the Flowers and Leaves punch if you haven't. And let me grab that just real quick again. Okay, here it is. So here's the Flowers and Leaves punch, and I'll try to kind of keep it tilted where it's not going to be in your face from the lights I have going on. But there are your flowers, and there are your leaves, and I didn't show you, but it's got the same exact leaf shape in the stamp set, and I didn't use those today. I used these instead. But yeah, it'll coordinate with that one and Flowering Friendship. And it's just a good punch to have, even if, you know, you didn't even have the stamp sets and all you had was a punch, you could still make flowers and leaves to adorn any card. All right, guys, that is it for today. I hope you all have had a great week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll probably be up early in the morning for church. I'll be going to church regardless whether I'm up early or not. But anyway, y'all have a blessed rest of your weekend. Have a blessed new week that is coming up, and I will see you later. Bye.